thoughts?
Yes. 이제 단다 지금이네 아직라 테스트하는가. 가서는 아주 다 천조마 로도되는 수수기 언제디 참샤디가 수수를 때 상당히 있었다고 그러라. 안디치 아니 다 두송두송 아주 가정 모두지 치리 아니 디 이미 간데 돌아. 나 두송 치나 아니 저 가르 유명한 아주 디가 가르 시도라. 주하고에 계셔무다. 세상 아주 야부 치고서는 담보 두자디 빠야디 하고 고에 빼게져라. 디 하마고는 가 야부 치기는 야부 간데 하고 뭐라. 야가디 야두 이지도 치토나 아니 방고에 대 가르 쓸래고에 하고 뭐라.
So then it is important to kind of remind oneself of these important points that we discuss about in the class. For example, the 10 advantages and the 8 freedoms, as well as the 3 poisons. So in the sessions yesterday, we had a very detailed discussion about the 3 poisons and how they have a negative consequence or negative effect on the way that we think, act, and speak. And it is important to kind of reflect and contemplate on these again and again, because if we want to transform the way that we think, then it is important to realize what are the kind of challenges that we face. And the biggest challenge that we face in the transformation process is exactly these 3 poisons.
지당 아주 지금 불러지 나오나 나 처지래나 수수기 뇌디 나 네버 나 처들 뇌디 이제 안자 때때는 다른 나서 되더라. 나서 디 뇌디 학군 다 무슨이라 디바빵 아니 멜어서 버튼 안 자진 줘 오면 되는 리다. 세상 아주 담보 디 수수기 빵고에 빵자디 학군 디바빵 아니 레비쇼레는 야가리라. 신바야 지게 아버지 치고서네 디 두저들 앉아 치되는 야도 도마.
So then similarly, when we think about a disease, us developing a disease in the body, then if we just keep complaining about the symptoms of the disease and do not really care about abandoning the kind of lifestyle which contributes actively to this disease, then it doesn't matter how many times we go to the doctor and complain about the symptoms. We need to adopt a lifestyle that doesn't actively contribute to the disease. So similarly, the 3 poisons is like that. We need to know what to abandon in order to adopt a more meaningful lifestyle. We need to know what are the challenges that presents themselves. So this is the importance of recognizing the 3 poisons and the importance of abandoning the 3 poisons.
디제 다 가정가도 디는 아니기 싫은 되쳤다. 대쇼라 셔담메단 난도른 제비 팀 문화진에서 영예 모아제셀라레 인라처라. 다디저디 지단게 단다리 유니 라디가라 수수기 지가서 차단 모종 제색이 유도를 예서라. 신방가서지 수수 파유도 유년 받는데 라고 말다. 간다가서들 신자제야당 안에 차단도지 가르 당어제 참 근데지를 유도를 시작했어라. 제가 내가 나지 디츠쇼들에 가서나 유년 빵배 근데 유도도 따서 차단 모종 제색이 유도도 빵와이나 아니 가르치기라나 유년 빵배 뇨모 림치 디블레디가라 근데 유 차단 모종 제색이 유디 빵와이나 아니 하나도 뇨모 반다 되셔시라 팀무도 라시기 뭐 딥만 뉴드레스 라 아니 나에 된대기 아니 차단 제색데 메바 인상 나에 메바 인상 아니 게종디도 수수기 추겨도 두에디 konde yapıyoruz. An dinde insan ani manzola parchi chenye chik sangi sangi zoni me ba insan riba tangbo chagirer riba sebu riba sebu chawa insan ani chöla ngi ni ba su kanga jang shawadi ani pa takta ji ba semla neki ba anzo sangi sangi mabo ina chik sembal zata suru kosa no damar tana su jang we nangi migla we no kugu mare dinde chin ra tadi gi khana sune emba temba jese la le di yu emba la sa kuju le ne wa ina dinde yu di khazna ngazoge kasa ta yempoge tene yutile ne baina ne jese shanju sambadon zoge ani yamne chetan res.
So then if we refer back to the second verse, then it talks about the first line. It talks about the practice of all the bodhisattvas is to leave behind one's homeland. So in this line we shouldn't in this day and age take it literally as leaving behind one's homeland, but it's better to understand it as leaving behind the objects of our desire, of objects of our aversion, and so forth. So, tying into the same point, now the third point, the third verse, it reads, "The practice of all the Bodhisattvas is to take to solitary places, avoiding the unwholesome, so that destructive emotions gradually fade away, and in the absence of distraction, virtuous practice naturally gains strength, whilst with awareness clearly focused, we gain conviction in the teachings." So, as in the previous line, we shouldn't take it for ourselves to take to solitary retreat places, but to avoid these objects of attachment and objects of aversion, mainly to do away with unnecessary engagements and engagements. So when you begin to do away with unnecessary engagements, then we begin to avoid those which are unwholesome, which does not serve us well. And when we avoid this, then naturally the afflictions, the chances for afflictions to rise in us lessens. And when there are less afflictions, then we are less distracted. Our minds are not so agitated all the time. And when our minds are not agitated all the time, then the cultivation of a virtuous practice gains strength. It develops from there. And then when there is less distraction and your practice develops as a result of that, then you gain a sort of clarity and stability in the mind, which is this awareness which has great focus. And when you do so, then whenever you contemplate on the teachings, you are able to ascertain the meaning of the teachings clearly, as a result of which you gain conviction in the teachings. Now think about how normally we approach the teachings. We have so many distractions because we have so many engagements, societal, worldly engagements, and then as a result of that, many afflictions arise in us, such as attachment, aversion, and so forth, because of these engagements. And when we try to understand the teachings, the real meaning, we are not able to ascertain it for ourselves. We gain some sort of understanding, but we do not develop what is called true conviction in the teachings.
Andi duzu jita digna ramra thong samdigal a tari dele de chungsha phagi dele de chungsha chi yapo cha ni du semba le ya desang ge di ngazo semba insa da oda ya chadam mo se sa simba sile oda ro di ta ngima dinde ji suyo na tande gi chala ngara tula karare to ta go el peke chimda ro simba ale peshana dinde du samme che suyo gi nyamni che di ngazo la di sam ko yumda ta ngara tanda khande ngima dinde sunje ngima de du pe dinde sha ta tande gi tula karare tande insa de khande de titawana ani mune ora suyo gi nyamni che juro soda sam ro.
So in the process of cultivating a practice by studying texts such as these, it is important to kind of apply the teachings to our own day and age. Since this is written in the medieval century, then it only talks about human interaction, about developing attachment towards friends, family, and then developing aversion towards what you deem to be your enemies and so forth. But nowadays, in this day and age, the world is full of distractions, in the sense that we do not really need human interaction to develop attachment and aversion. For example, when you look at your phone and use the internet, then you have many sources of distraction, in the sense you agree with someone, so you develop a sense of attachment towards their point of view, to their kind of point of view, and then you develop aversion towards something that you do not agree with, and then this consumes a lot of your time, attention, and so forth. So it is important to kind of apply this, apply how these teachings shape up in this day and age.
tanda kinazo ni de bala chi mo imbara kinazo mo senda ade ngazo be kalo parchi tani chile parchi tani kar do thong sura tiganzo pashi chi joena semla nga yang yi da muzi chi ni ji she de ni de na de simbala nya ka che.
So then rather than me just speaking from here and talking about all these things, I think it's better if we are able to discuss this amongst ourselves by talking about the kind of challenges you yourself faced in the pursuit of a spiritual path. What are the distractions and what are the challenges you've faced so far in the pursuit of a spiritual path on a daily basis or generally?
So miso la di semba ge kalo semla sangi sing zo lo yo ra chendo miri la da ngazo patsu ya godo per do ra ale di de she sang.
So each person has a different and unique experience. So if we are able to share this with the group, then the whole group looks to gain from this sharings.
I have a question on something that you translated before. You mentioned avoid objects of attachment and aversion. This means trying to actually avoid because we are not in the stage of relating to objects with an equanimous way, or you meant avoid relating to the objects with attachment and aversion, or trying to separate from.
No.
I don't know if I'm clear.
Two things. With your own friends and families, it's impossible to avoid. But then in the new relationships that we form, then the second one is true. You try not to relate with people with such strict terms as friends or enemies.
I find that sometimes with the busyness of life and our daily activities, it can be hard to remember to apply Dharma. That's what I find challenging. To remember what I've heard in the teaching and apply it.
Mezin namjin ite chela tsawo pe ngoy ras. Dizi zama mezin nanga chen parche do ta kare chungna yasra. Ani chela tsawo di korangi ani ta chuegi da nga laura. Dizo ni chenpa soya kaku chagi dos. Nyamne nide do che gore lawe chenpa soya korang kaku chagi dos.
Shimba. Kena ngado ine dirshi jitse tana tandaranga to ji shilo dogore lana tadi doya de la ngazo karje tadi chewo chikyo ti shilo de teblo ne nyumda sambal hile do hindelo na ngune ya yumuda tinde ro jeda ani ya misi no dam lo da pena ngazo ji khashila shero sangi de china do shido mara nima ngazo gele jo ko kenza sho ko gi teblo de shi chinchu tang shaida ni gela ganda chitu de ko de tandu yaga jutu de da so lo la ne mani chebada.
So personally, I find it very hard to concentrate on my study and contemplation when I have some things that I have to do. For example, let's say I have to go out in a bit, and then if I have to dedicate some time to my study, then that thought of having to go out later on kind of makes the time that I have dedicated towards study a little bit less effective. But people are different. People have different ways of doing things. For example, we used to have a teacher. Generally, it is true that people, when they want to study and contemplate, they need some sort of quiet space and quiet time. But then some people are able to focus better when there is some noise. For example, I had a teacher who, whenever he reads a book, he plays like a soft music nearby, and then he just reads. And then we used to ask him, how can you do this? How is this possible for you? And he says, I can focus better if there is sort of a white noise near me, and then I can focus better on the book.
chimbayo ne sosu ngonzu ge cheza ngazu chiro che nyamni chela parje tani khade jima ti hako pura shindule ende minde.
It's important to realize like what are the challenges we ourselves face in the pursuit of study, contemplation and meditation as well as practice. And have none of you faced any such challenges?
Yeah, I'm similar to you. So when I have a plan ahead, I'm completely get distracted. By now I have to be in time, so I'm very German in this point. I have to be in time and thinking about that, and I also need quiet environment to study.
그런 Geshema Dawa is 직도를라나 아니 단다 로에들라 토마시라
네,
뜻인데스.
and the
Also, similar situation where I think of all the tasks I need to be doing and it distracts me from practicing. And also, I found phone today are very clever at distracting us, and it's very struggle to sometimes leave it apart, leave it aside, because they are designed to capture our attention. But I need also phone for my daily life. It's completely remove it.
네, 그런 된저 Dawa is 처시 mambo지나 처시디 그런 게 직 도나로 제 도움이 됐어. 네, 간이 시슈디 가바데를 뒀다. 가바디 그런 속에 그런 당한 저기 도나 숙심 못해 고야로 지소샤라스. 제가 가바디다 남영라 남영 먹고 자주 뒀어. 아니 이나 가바딜라 야마치나 레이미드스. 가전 레가다 그런 고데라디 가바디.
그래. 가바디 이거 타치 두절라야 돼 민들아. 슬라가지 전에 파지 대화 전에 가리네 고도. 디나로를 당 취미죠 뭐지 따되나 아니 나도 페도 차이다. 봐. 디나로 전에 자제나 가바나로 럽는 시에다. 길이 장나 장에도 나전이네 니에도 아니 지 그다 쇼쇼 공부ኛ네 근데 럽니 페지도 테스트도. 근데 인디가라 쇼진의 편도에 전부래 다디 페지 다니를 라리더라. 니 나로 점점 막 보시다는 뒤주 가도 하고 문다. 봐. 아니 아바카접서 디 편도 가르쳤다네 개구지라요. 봐. 달럽주 제로다 소소길로야제 타이로 근데 장나 없다.
So I think technology in itself cannot be said to be inherently bad or distractive. For example, when we're talking about the phone, the way that we use our phone, we kind of begin to scroll and then spend hours on it. And then when we close the phone or when the battery runs out and then we see what has happened, then we've learned nothing, we've gained nothing from this exercise. But when we look at what we can do with the phone, then there are a lot of good things we can do with the phone. For example, nowadays, you can learn new languages through your phone. You can attend teachings online through phone, and you can also receive instructions on how to meditate through your phone. All of these are available already within the device, within the design of the device itself. But we do not use it properly. We just keep scrolling and do not really use it towards a good purpose. So we cannot say that by design the technology itself is inherently bad or destructive. It really depends on how we use it.
On the subject of the phone, for me, especially traveling alone for a long time, I feel that the attachment to the phone grew so much. It's like my best friend and in a way like my safety sometimes. And the thought of like losing it, it's like losing my connection to the world in a way.
네, 그런 가바고를 시나스라 다 지부 야마 딘주 망고 체데라 참지 디좀바는 카바딜라 차바슈 침부기기도 가야나 그 야마 딘주 체데 디좀바니 로과 로지서로 메시지요 마라 지부지부 참데라 뒤에 디좀바니 카바디달 르 캐쇼도 치서도 아니 테마세 아니 질단 잠닝염도 되와 튀에기지데 유나메나 지어라 카바디르도스 카바디메나다 벳 개구지 메와도 소르도스
다 카바디 가서 표지 야고 따는 가서 그디네 버려 카바디 거의는 키도라 잠자도네 키도 다 거드는 다른 거 거드는 키도다 그래서 ત디 રે પેજી આવો તને મને ચોપોયા બોલજી લે દો રા ને ગંતદી સેલે ગેરો પેને ગેરો તા સુંજો ન્યા ગુટના tambo sunjo ન્યા ગરે આપો છે તે sunjo સાસને દી લયા તી પર છે બજતની તી ચિતે ખાશે થોડા તાંસે લે દો રા ઇને યા તા તી સુસુ પેજી તાંગ તાંગ રા લે ગરે.
So yes, really, since all of us are with our phones throughout the day, and then if we use it properly, it can turn into our best friend. But if we do not use it properly, then it wastes a lot of time and energy, a lot of our time and energy. For example, when I say that I want to use my phone in a good way, then I try to revisit teachings through the phone, and then I listen to the teachings for a few, let's say an hour or half an hour, and then after the teaching finishes, then I'm back to scrolling again.
세상 가서 되는 거라 세상 얘기 나랑 선발에 저 땅에 가서 지 스스로 다시 해야 되거든 스스로 가르장나야 풍나라도 쇼지냐 점자 스스로 니만 쳐고서 자시죠 풍쇼 주고도 띵에 냠뉴고 돌시야 니만가라다들 콘솔레리 친이도 되려다 아니 비미고도 시고래라는 저 파기라 저라 디디가라 아니게 데 트라제셔람도 콘도 와이파이 마트나 다다미도 근데 니마다보다 파이라 와이파이 터가 도이면 아니 쇼기 차시되면 쇼지도 쇼기 하고야라 수수 칸도치 아니 샤도체 얘네 수수 공제 상당 가르치느라 되네 그건 좀 파이 시도 고발 파이기 라과도 된도 디만도 코나 수수 차시다가 두도 가르치고 있는데 건다 수수 칸도 좀 채서는 건다 르르 쳐이라 다포 얘는 아주 지 칸도로 시도 폰실에 디지기 랜도 제 양디 지야쇼 마셔래 차서 투도다 하길래 디 자지미디가 수수기 칸도체나 공제나 샤체나 이글라베 태블로에 딱딱딱 두도 디 이게 냠뉴시 됐어.
So personally, I felt how this device, this cellular phone, has this effect of changing the kind of daily routine that we want to kind of strictly follow. For example, when I was in Ladakh, then I went there to talk about women empowerment, and then to take some classes in a very remote place. And when I went there was no cellular data at all. You had to connect to one source of Wi-Fi, and so it was quite a hassle to connect to this source of Wi-Fi. So I said, okay, I'm not going to go through the trouble to connect to the Wi-Fi every day. And then I realized that my phone became more silent. And when the phone became more silent, then everything like went through like as I planned it, my routine, so to say. If there was a plan to give a talk at 9 in the morning, I went there exactly at 9. And then if I decided to take some time out to study and do some prayers, then I was able to do all this without too much distraction. And nobody was calling me to come and meet them because the phone was silent. So then I realized like how much space and time that this cellular phone takes away from us, from our daily lives.
다 단다된 아주 이 빼로 풍가는 사람이 거리네 이러라. 먼저 센트루에 소소소 거리네. 수 코유상이 생이나래. 안 직내단 담을 이러라. 라지 아모터도 티상생이 나가서 장통 말아. 다 딘데 소소소기 유디 컨테질라 누드 소소소 공부냐네 제라 직취야 부치야라. 거리 누드는 어디를 타리는데. 라 이미 폰지 부 말에 다다 가서 폰지를 진짜 샤는 셔라 리파 카포야 리파다
So then the phone is just the tip of the iceberg, so to say, when we are talking about distractions. And you need to think about where does the real source of distraction lie in the pursuit of a spiritual path, and then try to do away with these distractions, these sources of distractions.
다시 미여데 미 다른 지나려서 제대로 가셔서 빠빠빠 시되나 저 저거서 좀 tuk셔다 아 그러면 제야 보대로 고동 딱다라 제제 다 줄라나라 도마라 안데 니엔들 됐어 안 잠도 들었다 되는 리더라
Sometimes even worse than phones, we have human beings who kind of love to talk endlessly. And then when you are trying to study in your own quarters or room, and then they come, then they begin to speak endlessly and you cannot focus on anything. And then after a while you realize an hour or two has already passed.
제가 따따당 가서 디가라 가르셔와라라 제무제 오면 아주 유행에 빵당하죠. 수술을 가르내기더라. 가실래 깨차기 내고래 가실래 직상이 생기게 내고래 가실래 다다문에 내고래 봐 시로 가리네 가시다 소소 코일을 내면야 거의 그수도 보이네. 를 제모도 엘리다. 봐 소소소소 유칸데지를 따야 봐 유행에 인지면이 파이다 파마다 뒤집어림다라.
So then when we say in this verse avoiding the unwholesome, then this is exactly what it means. We need to figure out what is unwholesome for us, what are the sources of distraction for us. For example, for some people it's other people talking, which serves as a form of distraction because you want to engage in a conversation or take part in a conversation immediately. And for some people it's general noise and commotion. And then for some people it's your phone and so forth. So we need to figure out what exactly is our source of distraction.
나도 이제 비즈니스 하는 그래서 아마도 쇼에 폰도 땅게시 바지 지라 암코라코라 가니 마치를 가르치는 체에 된들 시기는 지라 이게 다 저는 무슨 시기 말아 대신에 이마치를 기부르다 서 semban 나 지 가르치는 도르지 리드 라 한잔도 안돼도 세상에 유대 니에다도 참아야 인지민지 칼로 소설을 내지 잡아담는다 다이는 것도 차방치는 아니 스스로 거르면도 양디나 같이 괜찮 거잖아 니에다 또 참아 유행이 봐도 파이스마 두제로 다였는데 집 말아.
So then when the text makes the point of how we develop attachment towards our family and friends and how we develop aversion towards what we deem to be our enemies, then it's not making the point that we need to do away with our family and friends. The point that it is being made here is how attachment and aversion develops and how it affects us. Now, for example, personally, I make it a point every day to call my mother in Tibet first thing in the morning to kind of talk about what she's going to do, and it's almost like a ritual. I try to do it every day, and we don't really talk for long. We talk for a few minutes, and when I do that, I feel that I'm able to face the day in a much better way. And so in that sense it's something good to stay in touch with your mother. Now the point that the text is making is that if we develop too much attachment towards such a ritual, then if there is a day wherein we're not able to contact each other, then what happens? So that's the point that is being made in the text.
세상에서 권내 태민이라 아리나 다 단다딜라 아카서는 저 지지 심바도 도사라 숨바디 용예 방벨레도 도사사 도사사 아니리거든 디체 다 당아주 디치도 양 조용히 뭐 방을해더라 용예 방을했다 조용히 발래냐 근데 가르자 아래 들으셨는데 못다바로 땡더라 디기 지지디 가서는 예린 조벤자시 소소텔스 베베드베 노제 슈디리스 류진남 가서 류진정 나신 정보 라 정보 포로스 센들로나 제zel라니 세상아 저기다 여린 조벨레데 소소게 찍어서 조보토모에 뭐 내가 저래 시게 잔데마 추침보 얘기기라 근데 아니 맞음 가장 먼저 시바나 시기 치다지 못하바 인자 수수 이마지 시고 되도가라 수수 조부좀 간데 뭐 가데 자와셔보다 아니 타니보다 빼데 슈부자 사무이나 이마지 윤도고라 근데 아니 예를 자시리 수수다 카텐도에레스 아니 소소게 따지 미치질에 깔레제 쇼기니 gond아보다 가서 깔레제 앞전노도 사다 그 쇼지 깔레제 버데 근데 베바 mambo 지자 자라 mambo지 깔레제 샤주데 노제리야 슈디 샨도에르면서 먼저 갑지데 기회요 말스라 아니 다 가지고 가르라나 타나 가서 류디에 소소 맞제니 다다보다 가서 냠도 예버라 이니 디야 나란즈근 정하나시 신정부 남시 드텐도디가라 아니 류근정 칸디 샨도에레스라 안제는 뭐 보러스 제가 근데 인자 챈들을 나제 센터디 가서 챈들라 딱받대 뭐 매바 인자 안들을 르땅니 가지고라나 다 챈디기 신샤던 돌라 르땅니 가지고라나 가지고 있다 나 소소jawa 심말라 아니 대화 오메 치라 데데르에 치 아니 제세 샹주 셈베기 되는 쥐바도들 아니 먼저 냠는다 아니 라렌다고 그랬어.
So moving on, the fourth verse, it reads, the practice of all the Bodhisattvas is to renounce this life's concerns. For friends and relatives, long acquainted, must all go their separate ways. Wealth and prized possessions, painstakingly acquired, must all be left behind. And consciousness, the guest who lodges in the body, must in time depart. So this verse talks about the impermanent nature of our existence. And when we look at the last three lines of this verse, for friends and families, for friends and relatives, long acquainted, must all go their separate ways. When we begin to form relations that we hold near and dear to us, then we begin to develop a strong attachment towards them. But we fail to take into account that even if we have grown very close to them and we hold them very near and dear to us, in the end, all this relationship must end in separation. If not through the relation running its course, then by the time of death, everyone has to separate. So we need to. So recognizing this, it is better not to form fixed ideas and fixed conceptions about relationships in this life. And then similarly, wealth and prized possessions painstakingly acquired must all be left behind. So all these material possessions that we go to great lengths to acquire, even when we look at what we do in our professional lives in one day, like from the time we wake up until we go to bed, it is spent in the pursuit of acquiring money and so forth. But at the time of death, then we develop a lot of attachment towards what we call our own possessions or our own belongings. But at the time of death, we cannot carry even a needle with ourselves into the next life. So then it's better not to grow too attached to material possessions. And then even this physical body that we take so much care of by going to doctors, but at the time of death, this physical body has to depart with the consciousness. And this physical body, in a sense, is like a guest house. And it doesn't make sense for us to become too attached to our guest house. So similarly, we should not become too attached to this guest house which houses this consciousness, which will depart the guest house at the time of death.
제가 단다 디나로랑 가서 가르고들라나 센들에 가서 제 조부좀 고거래라 준노노제 고거래 스스로 치 가시베 치레게 바베 베디 덤 체타나 아니 갈레도라 아니 저나데 케야데 요 말데 이네 딱 가서 류디 단다 사진이네 공부 류질렌 사디가 사고르 동고르니 사고르 데사고르 나도로 고라 디 창마치 메라나 가서 되게 냠니데 갈레 카버라 이네야 수츠는 뭐지시 딱 그 체대배 따다다 나중에 뭐 미도 라든지 아프고죠. 그 뭐는 더시다. 가리나 많다네. chen le da ine tsere mo ji me na nganzo tanda ya de ne to ji ge se go long ju le ten go ni gi kansa ji ndi ra di chang ma che me bala ne kale khabar.
So the point that's being made in this verse is that the very nature of the world, our lives, our bodies, are very uncertain and impermanent. So then it's better not to develop absolute and fixed ideas about these things. For example, when we develop attachment towards what we call our friends and family, then we think in absolute terms all the time. And then as a result of which we suffer. Similarly with our physical bodies as well as our belongings and material possessions. And so when we develop fixed and absolute ideas about things, then when things change, we suffer as a consequence of that. When the situation changes, then we suffer as a consequence of that. Now the point that we need to keep in mind is, as sentient beings in samsara, we have a physical body which has been appropriated by karma and afflictions. So it is bound. It is bound to experience suffering. And in that course, we cannot say that I can do away with all care and concern about my friends and family, my possessions, and my physical body. This doesn't make sense. The point that is being made is not to develop too much attachment, wherein we begin to suffer as a consequence of this attachment. Of course, to sustain ourselves, we need to take care of our body. To have meaningful lives, we need to have meaningful relationships with people. And to kind of survive in this world, we need our basic needs to be taken care of. The point is not that we can do away with all of these things. The point is that not to develop overt attachment to these things.
dewo thambo ji na lo ro chen re kar chen su su chi tu da chen san lam za be de a da ke ma re chue chen di go re di su sam chue den da yu shi la de che mu da chen san zo shu zo na lo la de gong ba den de la ka shi lu bu la sha da na ma je lo ro shu chi ne ta ma lo ro ya go cha sa di ga ne ba cha di ma mu pe yang zo chun zo de pe ji de ye ma re ka sa na da sen ri ya jen do sa chan le re kar in ha go ra ye ma ga zo shu lu le da ti san te to na chi do pen ba de yin da gong ba le lo ro control trading con lab and chida ni ma ga shira hawo ma ta lab no chibu do ma shema samno ke tang marwa tene chidu ga la thama de la ni na sa shena za wole tis nan do teng ma ta do ti la jo tene chen ni ya mu da
so ale ta gi ome lam la de
okay
so we used to have a participant in sessions like this before, and he used to make the point that in life moderation is the best possible approach one can take, and he used to stress that the middle way is the best way, not going to extremes. So that's the point that is being made here. That, for example, we cannot say that I will dedicate my whole life to the pursuit of a spiritual path, and then you disregard your health and so forth, your physical health. This is not the approach, because if your body suffers, then consciousness as a consequence begins to suffer and experience this suffering, and then you have to go to hospital, and then it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. Rather, before you end up in a hospital, if you are taking care of your body, then all of this wouldn't be necessary. So the point that's being made here is that do not develop extreme attachment towards these things, knowing that they are very uncertain and impermanent in their nature. And for example, in the classical monastic institutes in the past, there were many scholars who kind of completely disregarded their health and then dedicated all their time and energy towards the study of the scriptures. And then when they became like learned scholars in their own rights, then their physical state wasn't good at all. So this is the kind of old Tibetan attitude wherein like if you begin to experience some physical discomfort, then you have this kind of like a kind of attitude wherein you say like, should be alright, forget about it, and don't really consult the doctor. But then in the end, it becomes an old disease. And then when they have already completed the study of the scriptures, then their physical state does not hold up too well. But now it's not like that. Now people are more educated, and there are active health campaigns in the monasteries and nunneries to educate them about the importance of taking care of their health. So this is the point that's being made here.
이만 근데 이제 손다 먼저 densalama 캠보다 기시에들다 그런데 소소를 야보치 아니 밀어발랍 근데 짱 데데오라 근데 저는 이제 소소가 나서들다 지게 메간대가는 진짜 치료를 삼해도 근데 공부 첨부지다 가시야 공부에 내가도 차례 시켜주면 아니되네 소소 메간대도 저 땅오라 중을래가 쳐야 되는데 안 참아들 안 내봐자 저 첨부차니 아니 근데지가 용거서라 그동안 안에 나서 쇼쇼 뭐지 레샹이 바지 근데 뭐 쉬니 근데 뭐 레게서 근데 근데 우송다 그래서 담보는 트네 아버지 그러면서 다 타마들 나서 데니실에서도 땡에 같이 두르스라 근데 송우다 제선데 당한저 가르스네 류디에 단다디나 가르시고는 수수기 최남바 다바지 제발에 류디에 고도스라 제상한저기 미친 나로라직 야부지 제선 류 탐보지 매와네 주치도라 근데
So even His Holiness the Dalai Lama used to recount these stories. Back in the days when the great learning seats in these great monasteries in south were first being built, then the old lamas, geshes and the abbots of the monasteries were like very motivated people, and they really kind of took it upon themselves to dedicate all their time and energy for the sake of the monastery and its successful functioning. And so it is the case that the geshes who used to teach students, they never used to kind of take time out to go to a hospital if they were experiencing some sort of physical difficulty, in the fear that these students will miss out on the teachings. And then the abbots, they never took the time out to kind of go to hospitals to do a checkup at all, and because they felt like these administrative works were more important than personal work, than these personal concerns. And then it is the case that many of these geshes and abbots, when they grew old, they have chronic diseases by that time. And they used to come to visit the Dalai Lama for an audience, and they used to say that now I have these chronic diseases that I have developed over the course of my service. And when they used to tell him this, then the Dalai Lama always said, he used to answer them that you should have taken care of your health before. Now, as the diseases have become chronic and very old at this stage, there's not anything I can do to help you rather than send you to a hospital. So it's better to kind of take care of your health before this happens. So this is the point we need to keep in mind, that we cannot choose an extreme measure to pursue a spiritual path, because it's not all about the consciousness and the mind. For the mind and consciousness to effectively pursue a spiritual path, we need a healthy body too.
당은 디가라 뭐지 시대에 가는 센들로 당제서 라는 일이다. 센들로 당나데 센들 가르치는 제 배도 야도 가르친 내 당실에 디 권에 대행이 거다. 어디시는 건지 어디 나와라. 센디.
So the reason why I'm going into such a detailed discussion about this is because the first line could be misunderstood easily when it says the practice of all the Bodhisattvas is to renounce this life's concerns.
이제 다 딜라홀 딜라 칼란 종이 방바 라이슬러와 다 종이 방바스니 컨디지라 샤올라 나도 차단 무슨 야 제주니 야 페르주니 마르땅이 라 퇴선 공부 지디가라 냠네디 야고치 제마투미도 인간들 파시다니 라 아니 무슨 논디 장다 희지 로지 예바이나야 도창마마 뉴르타이네 메버소인들 아니 조용히 책이더라 제상들 간다 돈 두수 페지질레디 미스르 쓰인다 도봉 엠바디 간데줄라나 수수기 뉴모도선도 샤샤다 차단도 페죠 배나 아주 조부 조모인도도 계산나자로 신점서 나도 차단에 페도야지 되기다 내지는 수수 조봉 엠바 찍어더라 아니 퇴선 공부 아니 수수기 퇴바다 삼바다 공부기 냠네들이 남바다 바지 지기나 디 지디 잠발 아니 때문에 양 중이로다 지 파치 다니들라 조봉 엠바스티 샤이더라 아니 장다 니지 메버치와이 남두지 샴바다 자와다 니지드 드리바이나 다 캐마데지 시시신 캐마데 산탄서 요마롤라드나 수수기 샹다 니제게 로디마 냠주다 딘데유 족보딜라 아니 종에 밤에 제셀라레레디 딘데유다 유든데기 제세기 족보 트로모드즈 먼저 다른 당외라 말아서 베스트 프렌드 인라에 들려요데 점점 안조는다 만들루 차다 뭐라 지지지지니 계창아체 담으시는 뒤에 종이 차고 먼저 걸라다
Okay, then moving on, the fifth verse it reads, the practice of all the Bodhisattvas is to avoid destructive friends, in whose company the three poisons of the mind grow stronger, and we engage less and less in study, reflection and meditation, so that love and compassion fade away until they are no more. So, how do we define a destructive friend? Then the three lines that follow after that begin to describe or how do we define a destructive friend? Destructive friends are those friends in whose company the afflictions grow stronger within our mind stream, and then as a result of the interaction we have with these friends, then we engage less and less in study, contemplation, meditation and practices, and then as a result of which love and compassion begins to fade away in our heart. These are the kind of destructive friends that one needs to avoid in this life. And it is the case that sometimes what we call our best friends are exactly that, destructive friends, because we kind of spend our times with these best friends in like endless gossip, backbiting and so forth, and it doesn't serve any purpose at all, and then you become more apathetic to situations and then love and compassion begins to wane as a result of that. So from the spiritual perspective, these are all destructive friends.
진짜 빠빠네 아니 수 간데 제고난다 도보 냠바선나 희니 도보 야바선나 희니선나 간데 질을 샤와나 강시 때나 계승한도 된데질 파때와이나라 강시 때나 예바시지 된데 여희니다 도보 장보다서 데지 먼저 코들 때와이나 수수기 아니 지 예바도 저세 바타도야 야 연대이나 지 양다다 페야 지 수수기 레벨라니네 니레 콘콘도 페 냠메이나 카리나라 아니 지 gondunyane khare chewaina tapaya chitubada nyere agendo tendejila ani shinyen tamba rangi luwe changde shinyen tamba tendegita tuzula topotomine ra yesu ge hinyi mitana kanda ti yapurwa ti petsa chembo chine ngazo ge telendende cheda susu ngazo ludi yabusun je chigido na ngore cha ngore komre ta dende sam ngazo be chibu chigiora ti nashi dende hinyi da topotom singina ani ngazo ge susu ge lu nashi ge daje yabu chigu resla topotomine jere munyawo 제벌은 따따따 수수 약부지는 약고라 제벌은 자세라는 is.
So then if these are the kind of friends that we need to avoid, then what are the type of friends that we need to grow close to? Then the sixth verse talks about the practice of all the Bodhisattvas is to cherish spiritual friends by regarding them as even more precious than one's own body, since they are the ones who will help to rid us of all our faults and make our virtues grow ever greater, just like the waxing moon. So exactly, in the Tibetan word spiritual friends refers both to a close spiritual friend as well as your teacher. And So we can understand that we should look at our spiritual teachers as our spiritual friends too, and then we need to regard these spiritual friends even more precious, and we need to cherish these spiritual friends even more than we cherish our own bodies, because in their company we learn to recognize our faults, and then we learn to get rid of our faults, and then as a result of which our virtues begin to develop and grow, just like the waxing moon. So the waxing moon is in the lunar calendar. From the 1st to the 15th, the moon begins to grow bigger and bigger, and then on the 15th, it's a whole round moon. So the metaphor that's being used here is with regards to the lunar moon, lunar calendar. That's
Yeah, good choice.
I would like to ask if here spiritual friends relate to Sangha or to any friend that is a good example.
tanda dila ni gewe shingi tuye jura dila ni di gindugi de rangla shagura velos.
Gende de shakmata susu nyamni chini michana la chu nyamni chini yura ra o di injimi gende la shagwa.
No, it does not really pertain only to the Sangha.
Asana kanto chu nyamni chini michana la chu tawani na sine chini yura ra dendegi sola langa ya patani de la churu de ge hini de sha ani yang kanto chik tu sun de pechuni de ta devi toburo chegera.
So it is the case that not all our interactions about spirituality is with the members of Sangha. Our interactions about spirituality could also be between two laypersons too. So then we can look at that layperson as a spiritual teacher, as a spiritual friend.
zamza ngazo ededa mikaji tokbu tokmu kenza kuni chamyam chamumida ra chikila kadungdo dang ya nyamdo jodo ta tinge ngara sambal tusum phe jiru resan na dogo mare chena che deni chepe duja de ji lagi ya nyamdo mamdo da ni jidinge da khalo chik kunzin ro che de jila ya nyamdo dogo dipa musaya ro jile da ra tende ina su ge tuba jago ya mare ko ta rin shan diora.
So now kind of looking back into the point that's being made in these two last verses, it reminds me of something that I notice many times, that there are two people who are always quarreling, always fighting, always shouting at each other, and then they are friends, and they cannot let go of that friendship, but they are always shouting, always complaining about each other. So from my perspective, I think this is not a healthy relationship from the spiritual perspective, because you are always always making each other angry, always making each other speak and think and talk and act in ways which are totally against a spiritual practice. So I think it's better to kind of break away from such relationships rather than always holding on to that semblance of friendship.
Do
any of you have such friendships?
So good.
It's not friendship as you say, and you try to avoid that person who's quarreling or who's got aversion and anger towards you, but still wants to be your friend. But you say, no, I want to avoid because I don't want any kind of stress. So the other, because he wants you to be under the control of that person, develops strong aversion. Because more you avoid, more the person develops a strong aversion and anger towards you. That's what I have experienced. So,
Kurangi nyamnyam rochena ni midndrei tonyonsra ni toborang suzuki dushi phala mashan tsu toboi dushi shagi dos. Di shayin de zamba da phala tobu dushi mashay di khoi da lunglang gi re jeja damida she lunglang chi gi ra sosla. Cheza ni da toboi dushi shagi mesra. Ina phajo di tsula yang toboi dushi do shagi dos. Da kising ye khola yue tapshi chenasra. Sosu rangju la da dix shedang da dis nyong ro do ras. 이나야 나이 콜라 유해 답시 지도 뭐 코영 텔레 영망 롱랑 도스
근데 this is the 세상에 저기 콜리유라디 콜 카동 땅아 토보조게 메큐 두제도 안데 라고마다 수수기때 수수 취해라 데스 컬러 탑 켜부 체게 좀 딜라모가 데스미들레로 데스 수수기 주제 심바타네 거라 다른다 이네 교양 몸도 지문도 님도 라야 말아 계속 콜 라제전에 야부 제도는 저는 제도 제마도나 데지 처럼 보도 되는 디다 인지민지 콜리유 켜 두제도 지라나 이제 코선을 그래 지파르서 먼저 두순이야 직패로다 라 텔레코 타치도 두제질라네 아니 가서 가가체나 그 셈발로 포 컨트롤하는 데잖아요. 두 가서 대샤 셔당데 페로다. 야 쇼 디체는 것도 되네. 작바야 페로. 또 따르 딜라. 자, 안데 간데도.
So then when we're talking about avoiding and breaking off from such friendships, then we are not saying that you should dismiss these people as your friends. And then when you say avoid, we do not mean that dismiss them. As you've dismissed them, and then when we say break off, we say break off engaging with them in a similar manner. This is what we mean. And in any case, we need to do it skillfully. And if we do it in a very abrupt manner, then it causes a lot of hurt and misunderstanding, further misunderstanding. So it's important to kind of gradually break off engaging with such people, and then if you need to address something, then try to address it reasonably with this person that I have something else to do that requires my engagement and attention. I cannot give you the attention that you are asking for in this time. So like that, you need to approach all these situations skillfully using your intelligence.
Even if you do that, you are trying your best to do whatever the other person says. You say yes, okay, but still you're not coming in front, so that because the other person maybe wants to take more advantage. So then the aversion is growing, and then the person starts taking away, starts to take away whatever you have, like your house, your people who like you, try to say something negative to them, so that to isolate you, to take away everything slowly, and you don't realize it. But then one day you start realizing what's happening around you, and then you start working on it, and then you realize what's happening. You are not unkind to the person. You are still doing your best to see that the person has everything, the house, the electricity, and everything. But the person is expecting more and more, and what can you do in that situation? Just stay away, be quiet.
근데 뒤에다 디스트링 무도지다. 거기 인디지리스 덴데 체나양스라 수수문에다 탑케보도체 근데 체나양스 포점 미디기 아니 삼시치에면은 수도라. 다 그런 디스 게르기 기자로 진사를 해야다. 네 미들라다 파지 카야에 근데 체나치 탑시 체나스라 수도라니 삼시치에 메조체. 아니 갈리갈리 코에다 키랑 캡상내는 거 두그레스. 키랑기 로바상마 코랑담다 티야.
그런 게 미시버디 고정이 미주라 뒤로 버창스 텐
그 화점미디들 치기레스 대능신은 수속의 낭요라 낭의 초야 어딘데 기자 총그레스라 담아들 수속문에다 카예 답시시 답이 켜보치에 답시시 당농 직 선반이마 마장내라 선바상보기 취로 지신다 치여라스 담아들라네 거기다 제거해 간가 구실로 저 제시하랬어. 소속의 낭초 아니 코르기 초보드스 초. 근데 진 타마타마들 신의 소속이 신에다 하고기다. 인데 차도다. 소속로 정가 숙심부 되기도 했어. 근데 지도서 봐. 근데 저 동네 가도 최고를 느끼지.
이제는 담보니 그냥 담보도 못 차리 때 사고라 미시가라. 보시가 저기 백현자 쇼에나 다른지 되라. 아. 이내 다 거기 담다 참 조시 쇼스나와라. 다 초차지디 가르치 올라오래. 딘 미드 마트에.
근데 딱 거의 촉차서 말하는 촉나 람나로 다던다. 근데 용기로 왔어. 강바초 근데 중민나 아니 뭐네 만족이다. 카이에 탑케부치 심게마장데 지조디 지페마서 타마타마 소소로 정가라서 와라.
그래. 다 미기 다는 아주 미 담보 투든 하고 오더라. 미 카시 때도 하고. 카시 때 짱더니 배 양도 호치. 타마타시들에 안에 그 두제체주라 this is so the low namchi the condition ra the ngala dochi ta kada mi shembala phade chuba tena yara so so le yapo chuba tena mi shembala khensa jina ku khanda mi yapo chi mi bitara kyola kesan de ra yeza indo ho chejo ra ani ku tesi mi shembala duja ma mo che do de toni na ani zamzam zo pa tarin tang we de ra ta 덴데도 진짜 지금 탁탁해 보체 백해 참바라 근데 치고도 아니 담보는 수수 그 사장하면서 레 맞줘야 돼 개참버릇이 그래서 제랑 거기다 담보 쉬운데도 호체 사도 냠도체 지금 칼리 간스 간도체는 칼리도
So then as we already said, even in this case intelligence is required, a basic sense of common sense when you build relationships with people. Most of the time it is the case that we are able to ascertain for ourselves the nature of the relationship when we first meet someone. But there are times when people are really manipulative, wherein when we first meet them, they talk very sweetly and so forth. And then it's important to use your common sense and intelligence when you first develop relationships or with people to see if all the way that he behaves with you and the way that he or she behaves with someone else align with each other or not. And from there on, we begin to understand someone's motive in forming a relationship with ourselves, so forth. So from the outset, we need to be sensible with the relationships that we build, and we need to be realistic about the nature of the relationship that we build. And it is important from the outset to not let ourselves be manipulated by someone.
Yeah.
Because we have seen, like, if one has seen one's grandparents very loving, very simple, and one's own parents very simple, very loving, so one sees the world very beautiful. One doesn't realize that anybody can be manipulative. It doesn't come to the mind also. So you learn only later that you got to be careful. But when you are living normally, the world looks very beautiful because you see your parents, your grandparents. So it takes time to develop that skill to understand and to understand the world. It takes time. And maybe these experiences make you understand and make you wiser. So maybe this happens for the good to make you understand life better. And that's why maybe one reaches this path also. Because maybe if this would not happen, one would not become wiser and reach this place to start learning wisdom.
Tinida dirita korang nangmi sir. Manzo gi gembo ta bobo momo laura. Gembo da tuzugap samba mipe nyamchung laura. Ani michuma laura. Samla de damina kore ke maris. Teni manzo abama tuzu pamagi tuzu le nyamchung laura michuma. Ta tanda tuzu le dizama misama dis jangrung de bodo. Ani ta korang sardu zamba de bomo mobo ani 아바마 냥도 차리스르 디 차리는 자마 아니 미상마데 제레 사메기 삼로치기기라 직 삼반남다 미추마로 니나에 대상미데 레요 마라 대상미데 조다 데레 레돌레네 로총데 제네 아카레디 투주식라 마시샤기미도 라기미도 제자니 따타랑 레다 네 제자 냠뇽디 따사고야도 지레도스 가전하나 미상마데 제레레네가 삼로치 케데라 디 ngoy nisu na thungyo mara ani ngoy nisu la miganga dis koto yongye de yongore changrung de yongora chezan dine ni susula da sherab la na da madi dis lobjong do chi ragi dos lobjong ti ni da ragoe nyamnyung di sagoe inji mi ji sago do
네 dindo kashi be kyoda da be buina su pama bi shen dindo 장은 당한 저는 남이들 되는 강이 요마데 먼저 때문도 오든 신신 따라 하고도 그라 가진 남들이만 다 보다 아마 정보배 야보이나 질 남으로 실내 남아디기 니주 땅도 아 다치랑이 배도 그럼 먼저 나가 아마 빨라 아무도 가 비셔셔 내가 니 감바 찍고 싶은데 안들라 더 판매 비셔니 된도 세상에 미 참마 엄마라 참마를 이치해 줘요 말아 뒤에 수수가 남쪽에 비시 땅땅 kade di sar ta gor ma to nganzo yi che changma che na jil zamza kang che shli da taji che de pe ki chum che ta nganzo mi le de tomo ma be nam che ju le di khande chi de sar ra go ta ni ma bo re chige mi ya ko chi di ma the de ni yore mi ju no ya ko ni ma di su ni yore su su phamma tan ji ne pa pi ni de ni yor ra 가시 상마 야 말이야 나 미디가 가시겠네 아 디사 미 야포야 만 미 상마 두제로 딘데 말이야 야포에 빼가 쓸게 봐 야포리 두제 여라 디니자 나라서 로투 치오라
So yes, from this sharing, I remember now it reminds me of these stories about how even in a household, the child of a the children when they grow up, they kick out the parents from a household, and like even if I have not seen it with my own eyes, but I hear stories and then I see it on the TV. In dramatizations of such events in TV, and when you look at that, then like a bride or a groom comes into the house, and then the parents are still living in the house with them, and then somehow one person begins to put it in the other person's ear that we need this house for ourselves, we need to kick out the parents, and then they actually kick out the parents. And so in this kind of stories and the kind of sharings that you talked about, then it comes from a lack of being realistic, in the sense that even in your example and in this example, we did not, both the people did not took the trouble to investigate who is this person in reality, and what are their motives in reality. And even though trust and confidence are beautiful human things, but then when you build a relationship, it's important for us to not to get too carried away in moments of infatuation, but to understand who your partner is as a real person, or who your family member, cousins are as a real person, and what are their motivations and so forth. And this is the approach we need to take. We need to understand things as they are. We need to understand reality as it is. We suffer the consequence. We suffer manipulation. We suffer the consequences of manipulation because we do not take the effort to understand things as they are. We project our feelings and emotions onto situations. We project our fears and suspicions onto situations, and then we begin to suffer what we call manipulation and its consequences. So we stop here and break for tea.